Hello, friends. Welcome to Science Talk. I'm your host, Jim Massa. I want to discuss with you an issue that is posing a problem for aquaculture, primarily fish farming. Fish farming is increasing. It has increased 16-fold since 1985. And the reason why is there's more and more billions of people to feed. And we're overfishing the oceans as it is. The ocean productivity is also declining because of changes to the physical conditions of the ocean. So humans are now turning more and more to fish farming, or more precisely, aquaculture, where you keep the fish held within pens so they don't swim away on you. So fish farms and the protein, of course, that they provide for over 3 billion people are at increasing risk from algal blooms. So there are toxic algal blooms that can kill fish, and sometimes humans, don't forget, are not only risking how much fish can be grown and basically how much protein is produced to feed people, but these are businesses, so there's going to be some economic losses associated with that. And if it's going to start killing the fish, that's going to increase the risk to food supplies. And this risk, the threat, has increased dramatically. And why is that? Not necessarily because the quantity of algae is increasing, but because humans are becoming more and more reliant on aquaculture to provide food. As I said, 16-fold increase over the last, 35 years or so. And 3.3 billion people rely on seafood for a fifth of their animal protein. It's also an increasingly important source as land-based agriculture faces great strains and stresses because of climate change, right? I've discussed with you the crop yields are decreasing, nutritional values are decreasing. There's going to be a food shortage coming very soon. So it was an international team of scientists. They carried out a statistical analysis of three sources, and this three sources was something called the HAEDAT, HIDAT, which is an acronym for Harmful Algal Event Database. And that looks at the years from 1985 to 2018. They report their findings in the journal Nature Communications, Earth and Environment. This analysis is the first of its kind, and they undertook it to address the situation and see if it's worsening. They say it may only appear to be more acute because wild fish, they can swim. There's an algal bloom. Oh, we don't like this. This is a shitty situation. We're out of here. So it's possible the blooms have simply not been reported as often because fish have managed to avoid them, but not when you have fish in pens. So here's some of the findings, some of the text in their paper. Global trends in the occurrence, toxicity, and risk posed by harmful algal blooms to natural systems, human health, and coastal economies are poorly constrained but are widely thought to be increasing due to climate change and nutrient pollution. We find no uniform global trend in the number of harmful algal events and their distribution over time once the data were adjusted for regional variations in the monitoring effort. There's a new factor that could perhaps be increasing the danger of algae to aquaculture, and of course that is climate change. Harmful blooms have occurred in temperature increase hotspots in the Asia-Pacific region, off the coast of Chile, and southeast Australia. Other climatic factors such as ocean acidification, alterations in nutrients, decreased oxygen levels are also factors affecting what's going on. Researchers did discover wide variations across the world in the incidence of harmful blooms, some areas having reduced human poisoning and fish kill, others increasing occurrences. Why is currently unknown. The use of coastal waters for aquaculture has been the key driver for the reporting of bloom because the mass fish mortality has led occasionally to disastrous long-lasting economic impacts. This in turn has driven awareness of new harmful algal species and new toxin types. Coastal waters, why is that? Very simple. Coastal regions, you have upwellings, you have onshore Ekman pumping. Upwelling brings nutrients. The pumping brings into shallower waters. Off you go. It's the center of the oceans are biological deserts. So it's basically the physics. There's a saying in oceanography: physics drives the biology. So that's what's going on. You have upwelling, onshore Ekman transport, bingo bango. You got the phytoplankton blooming. At least historically, that's how the mechanism was. Things, of course, are changing with the stratification and warming of the ocean, etc. So, there are about approximately 5,000 species of marine phytoplankton. That's a ballpark guess, of which 200 can harm humans through the production of toxins that either make them ill or kill the fish or shellfish they would normally eat. Some toxins also kill marine mammals, and their calves are more vulnerable. By December 2019, a total of 9,503 events of harmful algae have been recorded from across the world. Nearly half were of toxins in seafood. 43% of blooms cause water discoloration or surface scum, red tide, for example, producing other impacts, like say in tourism, whatever. Around 70 incidents cause mass animal and or plant mortality. Okay? And red tide, of course, resulting of dinoflagellates. The researchers say shellfish toxin outbreaks are now well managed in developed countries, and economies can recover quickly, although aquaculture industries can take many years to rebuild after mass mortality. The problem is becoming more acute because of the increasing reliance of an ever larger human population on fish protein for survival. Let that sink in. I'll repeat that again. The problem is becoming more acute because of the increasing reliance of an ever larger human population on fish protein for survival. And there's some examples of the economic losses from fish farms: $71 million in the U.S., 71 million also in Japan, 70 million in Korea. That was 1995. 290 million in China in 2012. 100 million in Norway in 2019. And then the worst was 2016, the Chilean salmon farm mortality, $800 million economic loss, creating major social unrest. Scientists conclude that algal blooms are an increasing threat to the world food supply because of the humans' ever-growing reliance on aquaculture for protein. So they basically said, we need to keep better data, collect better data, and monitor things much more effectively. But this really goes to a much larger issue. You've heard me discuss this before. There's simply too many people on the planet. And we have finite resources, finite space, finite planet. You cannot come up with all these resources to feed all these people. Something has to give. And that give is going to be mass starvation, I hate to say. Not to mention, putting aside the diseases and, be it, the coronavirus or what other pathogens are lurking, waiting to be unleashed from the permafrost as it thaws. I mean, pandemic and starvation, and if humans, as their nature, go to war, you're going to have a massive reduction in human population. But even if we got the virus under control, even if we managed to stay out of wars, there's going to be mass starvation. We're losing food sources from the ocean. We're losing food sources from terrestrial sources. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand the implications of that. But this, more and more people are relying on the aquaculture because that's how you create the food, because the oceans are dying. We've overfished them, the productivity is tanking, right? So we have to turn to other sources to get the food. And this is what we're seeing. And now, because we're changing the conditions of the ocean, it's making situations in certain spots ripe for algal blooms. The physical conditions promote that. And of course, the algal blooms have toxins that are harmful. Everywhere you look, the news is not good. But I'm keeping it real, folks. Thank you for your time. Hello, folks. This is Jim here with Science Talk, asking you to please subscribe to my channel and to inform others of my channel and of the work that I do. Please share to social media platforms that you use. Also, as a reminder, don't forget to click the bell so that you know when I load up more videos. Finally, I ask that you support the work that I do by becoming a patron at patreon.com. Details in the description box below. Thank you for your support.